another story for y'all, just in case. Uh, so if anyone isn't aware, I've been getting into politics recently. It's definitely had ups and downs. Like, I find myself really frustrated. Also, it's sort of giving closure and relief to not only see people speaking up for what's right, but also to actually be part of a movement that actively protects not only people of my kind, but others. And I used to dismiss politics before because it used to just be like left versus right and middle, and I tended to identify as apolitical because of that. And I did that just because I didn't understand politics. And even though I think my voice still works exactly with who to vote for, finding what your views align with best, there have been troubling sort of revelations. I don't know what it's called actually. Basically, we're no longer able to trust politicians as we were before. Because looking at the case in the UK with Labour and also how, like, I think Joe Biden was Democrat, I can't remember, but Joe Biden was, like, not really doing much in the US as far as I knew. Like, better than Trump, but somehow still not great. And yeah, like, the lack of headlines and stuff around it is, like, just nuts. And I sort of realised that it could be tied to journalism being bought off by obviously Republicans and the far right. And that seems to be true now. Because that's happening again. And in the UK here, we've got a complete fucking, like, racial, I don't know what you call it, like, cleansing going on. I don't know if that's the right term. But people are trying to get rid of everyone of a different race and different skin colour, even if they're British. And that's quite harrowing to think about because that means that people are obviously rising up and essentially doing something that's very dangerous for not only the country but the world. Because it could place us in wars and it could place us in probably a civil war. I don't know what the actual term is for someone, for a group actually, like entire citizens to rise up, fight back. But it very much could happen. And I'm getting so fed up of all this inaction around the world and complicity, all because of some fucking money. I've always said, like, if I ever get rich, like, I wouldn't use the wealth for bad. I wouldn't use it for selfish reasons, like most people do, including politicians. I'd fund it back into the people, into the community. Obviously, I live a safe life. Like, obviously, I need to keep safe and live a healthy lifestyle in that case. But again, and also it's like I can't skin bond because, you know, billionaires don't really like me if I'm obviously going to tax them and stuff. But the point is, I could run a country better than any politician and MP out there currently, and really that's only the case because I can at least do my research and know who to look for in terms of getting advice on a topic. Even like a sort of health board, I guess, like, as a reference. Like, if you want to do proper healthcare, you need to get people in charge who understand what they're doing. And, you know, instead of hiring GPs who skim an article to diagnose you, for example, I'll start getting actual specialists on board. So have GPs just there to do trivial issues, but have people who are experts in said topics to look at more serious cases. So, yeah, it's like a complete mishandling of healthcare in here in the UK, and even though free healthcare is good, it's also not optimal, and that's really where I take massive issue. Then we get on to why exactly I started getting into politics. I really, this only happened a few weeks ago, because before I was like, like human rights issues should be addressed as human rights, and I think I'm still correct in saying that people have rights to things, and essentially causing inequality is always going to do bad for a country and the people. And the far right won't notice it, but it is there because the far right are included. Like, there's no side other than the far right that excludes people. And that's why it's so important. So that's why I really got into it, but it's really when the racism in the UK started, because it is racism. When people are waving a flag and telling people to get the fuck out of the country and go back to where they came from, even if they're British, which is bizarre, then that's a real big problem, and that's why I don't agree with running the UK flag. It's become a symbol of hatred, and to reclaim that, we need more people to rise up and say, actually, we welcome you, and that's not going to happen until the rising up happens. But that sort of shit, it turns out, the racism was perpetuated by misinformation and complete stupidity. Because that's what it is. I know you listen here, you fucking cunt if you're listening. Whoever's believing this shit. You've been baited. You've been scaremongered. If you can't admit that, you're being complicit in many more crimes. And I say that as a warning. If you don't change your ways, then it's going to get worse for you. It'll get worse for everyone else too, even your families. Because the knock-on effect of discriminating against a minority is people, again, will revolt, but you would also be in a case where the government will try to silence everyone, thus making protests impossible and making democracy no longer exist. So you don't have any say in anything you do. And that's why I say this is dangerous, for it's a case of blind leading the blind. And the complete misinformation comes from a lack of, I think it's logistics is the term. Basically, people are painting, like, I don't know, like 10 people as being representative of an entire group of people. It's essentially the same as saying that, say, teenage boys, for example, that, as an example, because people will be disgusted by this, but it does happen. Teenage boys who commit sexual assault, they're often white, they're often under the age of 14, 15, and it does happen. But if we were to paint them all as bad, then really it's fucking disgusting, because that's just false. And not every teenage boy has done that. And if we're suddenly going to take their heads because, they're harming our women and other children, what's that going to fucking do? Are you serious? Are you that gullible? But if you look at the evidence, there's nothing supporting it. So there's really nothing here. And the people who are doing all this racism now in the UK are doing that exact thing. And they are actually harming children and stalking them because they're of a different race. Just let that sink in. You claim to protect women and children, and yet you're the ones doing this criminal shit. It's disgusting. And so I've really begun my journey into politics. I'm realising how corrupt government is and how bad the world is sort of designed. And weirdly enough, I grasped politics quite quickly because, other than the human rights issues which had politics sprinkled in, there's also all of this. It made me realise how politicians they're still liars. I always knew this, but they push points that people just believe completely blindly, and it's harmful. You can't ever be safe from a politician who doesn't live up to their words. But if they do, and they're harmful, then you can't also be safe. And again, as I said, there's a domino effect, knock-on effect. Once it's immigrants, it'll be women. Once it's women, it'll be disabled people. once it's disabled people, it'll be LGBTQ plus people, and suddenly the world is full of white elitists, or nationalists, I should say. So you've got the stereotypical white cisgender and straight person because that's the norm, and they always want those people to exist because they're somehow more productive, which isn't true. And so you become slaves. Everyone's rights is at risk. And that's simply why I go into politics. I haven't even gone into the more disgusting shit, and believe it or not, this is just complete surface level of the iceberg. It gets far darker and deeper. Because there are issues ongoing in the world right now that are just so inexplicably hideous and ugly. It's starting from like the Ukraine war, like it's horrible that they've been invaded by Russia initially, and seemingly the UK at least, and I think the US as well now, were funding Russian military arms, and this just wasn't good. It's disgusting, and I don't even know why we were doing that. And because we weren't exactly sort of saying no to begin with, we now have a target on our heads. Just let that sink in. Because we didn't say no too soon, like as soon as the war started, we've ended up with supposedly Russia now trying to go to war with us, and it's gonna fucking destroy us, I think. Not because of size, but because we're already struggling, as it is. And really that's not the only problem, but the point is, it's just so disgusting that we had a hand in essentially attacking Ukraine, and it's just so gross. Like, there's no other words for it. It killed civilians and innocent people. Like, it's just horrible. And luckily, Ukraine's winning, like by a long shot at the moment, and they're literally dismantling Russia as we speak, which is great. Can't say the same for innocent Russian people, because there are bad Russian people, and there are innocent ones. A lot of children unfortunately grow up to hate the West, but that's to be sort of expected, and it's obviously handled as it should. You know, talking to people, talking to them. Yeah, they're getting what they deserve. Essentially, you're going to see the entire community collapse if they don't just stop the fucking war. If they don't cease fire. So yeah, and one of the good things I've seen from the entire war actually is that Ukrainians will. I've seen body cam footage, and they've done a really good job of handling it. Like, they get out of these situations alive, even if they are fucking grim and almost hopeless. I've seen them taking Russian prisoners of war and literally either rehabilitate them or trade them over. Like, it's good stuff. Like, it's not killing for the sake of killing. It's being reasonable. They're not like Russia, and those words stuck with me actually. When a Ukrainian soldier said someone they were treating a Russian soldier, so that we're not like you. It's like, that's powerful. Still, I can't say I like the UK for obviously arming Russia. But it goes into another topic, and one that is also very serious because it's so horrific. It's one of the most horrific things. It's probably a bit more than Ukraine, but it's undescribably bad because you've seen so much footage of it, and people are not talking about it enough, and I didn't talk about it enough, even when I probably should have. And it's just like, not necessarily a fear of what I'd see, it's just a fear of getting something wrong. And now I think more than ever, I value more that people are safe and living in peace and harmony than being killed. It's as simple as that. But what's going on in Gaza is a genocide. It's not a war. It's not a conflict. It's a literal fucking genocide. And I've seen so many horrific things about that which still get to me because, like, if you've ever heard a child screaming or crying during gunfire, being absolutely terrified, or even just people standing under a hospital for shelter and get bombed a second time. Like, there's already a hospital that was bombed, but it got hit again. But it's fucking terrifying. And yeah, like, I think the UK, US, like a lot of countries are complicit in the genocide. Just objectively. It's just so sickening to look at all this footage and just see how bad it is. And I haven't even seen the worst of it, believe it or not. I've seen people who've been killed and bodies and even like people buried. Like, that's all surface level shit, but some of the worst things happen to be the result of that. With how Israel are essentially handling it. So not only do rescuers need permission to essentially um, to be able to rescue people from the Israeli army, they need permission from them for some reason. Um, they also can't act on their own will because they'll just be attacked. That's just fucking sickening. You're putting these people in a situation. By the way, one situation I saw is like someone trying to save his brothers from fucking debris, and they had to get permission. And that place was striked 4 times apparently. And it's like, oh, after the first call, like it's just fucking insane. But it somehow gets worse than that because there are terrible things still happening. Um, there are children buried under rubble. There are people bleeding out. But the worst thing of all is just the uncertainty of knowing where it's going to be hit next. And believe it or not, it's not even the worst thing because, like, this is the thing that I've not actually seen discussed much, which is surprising, but I realised it quite quickly. Why the hell would they target women and children? What's the point? Well, there is a big point to it. It's because they want to silence the next generation. They want to silence the genocide. They want people to forget. And really, they did not take history lessons, obviously, because they're doing the exact thing that people were doing in World War II. They wanted nobody to speak out. They want nobody to remember. It's just absolutely horrific, and they're targeting women and children for that reason. So that they don't have a voice. And this is why I'm essentially doubling down, going into essentially geopolitics. It's been really sort of rough to learn about this, but it's quite eye-opening as well. It's because, like, yeah, the Gaza thing is really horrific. It's not to be undermined or underplayed. Whatever the term is, you can't ignore this shit. And we also can't ignore the fact that the lack of government intervention into helping them is causing massive issues. Meaning that anyone who helps them is supposedly going there illegally. This is why people need to stand up for what's right. Stop staying at home, do something productive that actually gets governments to give a shit. Protest, like, do whatever. Like, just make a suggestion, and I don't know how you do it. Like, get onto the news. Like, there's ways to do it, and also get around it. Like, do it from home somehow. You just need to speak out and ensure that we're protecting people and establishing peace. Yeah, all hatred leads to violence eventually, and it's no different here. It's the same in politics. It's the same in real life, even in domestic situations. And really, the only people who care are those with love in their heart, and that's sort of what I see happening with people who do these things. Was it like in Gaza, do things illegally to save Gazan people and feed them? So it's just a lot to take in. And that's why we're political, and people say like you're fucking annoying, and you're not a political channel. I'm not, but I give a shit, and that's the difference between me and you. I don't want to be complicit in obviously horrific things, and I'm doing my best to make change however I can. Speaking out like now, or speaking out on Blue Sky Universal, or TikTok. I'm doing what I can to address these things. I won't let anyone silence me. I've always been resilient to that sort of thing. I just don't tolerate it. And again, if you're silent about these things and you're complicit, it's simple as that. It's such a horrific situation. People, I think some people would just say, like, they'll show their real true colours and be abusive and say, I don't care what's happening to two religions fighting in Israel and Gaza. Really. So what happens when they come to our countries and start invading us? Saying that the one true religion is probably like, I think it's like Jews. I think Israel is currently occupied by Jews. I could be wrong. It's like fucking disgusting. And you need to care about these because they become problems because people don't act. So it's frustrating. And people don't realise how, again, there's a domino effect. Like, if you're like far out and you're working a terribly paid job, like, you're gonna feel the effects at some point because of what you align with and who you stand with. We see this in America now with obviously MAGA people. They see they're either abusers or they're just vulnerable working people. It could be both. It also could be neither, but the fact is people align with these viewpoints and don't realise it's going to affect them at some point. And you know what Trump is doing in America is trying to enslave people, to make them see his and his billionaire friends all complicit in slavery. They want you to work for nothing, probably rations, and not live a very good life. Only so you can get more money and so get more things from it. So it's just all disgusting. And that's why politics is something you should probably give a shit about, because again they'll come for you one day. And even luxuries that you have, I forget to mention this sometimes, but it could affect gaming, it could affect music, artwork, it could affect anything. And you just don't know it yet. A domino effect of that again is that in the UK actually we had the recent UK Online Safety Act thing, which just backfired, thankfully, and hopefully it's not actually being put into effect anymore because it's useless. It's not protecting anyone. And for some reason the person backing that was caught with images of children. So yeah, that shows you the level of corruption we have. It's so that it's not they can protect children, it's that they're going to protect abusers. And that's what that supports. So that's why you need to give a shit and stop these problems before they become actual problems. And I do dream of the day where young people will actually hopefully be more intelligent, but also realise and be more empathetic actually as no one. But they also condemn this shit. And they become our presidents, the governments instead, the politicians. Because there's probably more people there who know what they're doing and will do a better job. Simple as that. And unfortunately, see like reform councillors now like being like 17 and 19 for some reason. just fucking weird. I don't really get why. It frustrates me. But they're using children as like not just a scapegoat, but the the voice of a younger generation to push complete bigotry and ignorance. They're using it to turn people into slaves. And yeah, that's gross. I fucking hate that older people are the only ones who can get into these positions usually. That's why we need more people who can actually speak sense and not have a corporate interest. And again, I bring up corruption because that's one of the things completely shadowing all possible good that we could see in the world. It's what's causing people to fund the wrong things and obviously cause minorities. I'm just going in the game there quickly. It's just so fucking bizarre and just gross. It needs to stop, obviously, and people need to take a stand. It's one of those things where, even though I could be at risk saying that, I don't care. I've lived my life as best as I can now. I don't really care what happens to me. It's just a matter of seeing that future generations are safe and see shit like that's happening in Gaza and even wars just stop happening. We need people to wise up and obviously start getting involved. I think, again, the reason why young people don't like politics is because it's so contrived, is that the term? There's so much controversy and so much wrong with it. And it is corrupt. But we need people to become politicians to counteract that. And I think a good policy to go by, if you are thinking of becoming one, is to put people first over profit. And that's the most important point here. If somebody may offer you £1 billion or £1 trillion, there's plenty of billionaires, I'm sure, that would come together and do that just to buy you off and get you to say something. And there might even be a contract in it, I don't know, so that you can't actually use it for good. But they'll try to buy you off, and really the safe answer and the moral answer in that is saying no. Fuck, is that noise at you banging? There's nobody's here. Um, yeah, just say no is a simple answer. And that's how you address a lot of things, I think. So, that's really my thoughts on that, I think. So, thanks for listening and see everyone another time.